Over the next 4 years, never let us forget a simple truth reflected in our peculiar heritage. We are but a small island, but we sit here a free people in one of the oldest continuous democracies anywhere in the world at a moment when there are literally billions of people yearning to be free. We are but a small island, but we have something to give to the world. Mr. Speaker, I have the honour to move that the following address be presented to Her Majesty the Governor in reply to Her Excellency's speech. To Her Excellency the Honourable Barbara Baker, Companion of the Order of Australia, Governor in and over the state of Tasmania and its dependencies in the Commonwealth of Australia. May it please Your Excellency, we, Her Majesty's dutiful and loyal subjects, the members of the House of Assembly of Tasmania in Parliament assembled, desire to thank Your Excellency for the speech which you have been pleased to address to both Houses of Parliament. We desire to record our continued loyalty to the throne and the person of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, and at the same time to assure Your Excellency that the measures which will be laid before us during this session will receive our careful consideration. Mr. Speaker, it was you who stood in my place after the last election to give this address, and so may I echo your opening words. I congratulate all members who have been returned and for surviving the Hare-Clark process. In particular, I congratulate and welcome all new members of the House. And may I say, Mr. Speaker, congratulations on your role. In the time that I've known you, I've come to count you as a friend, a mentor, and one of the most honourable people that I have ever had the privilege of knowing. You deserve this role and you will be outstanding. Noel Pearson, who grew up like me in an Aboriginal mission community and who became one of the architects of the Uluru Statement from the Heart, is known to have observed that of all the miserable cargo that left the shores of England for the Antipodes, there are three that I celebrate as amongst the finest imports. That sublime game of cricket, Earl Grey's tea, and the common law of England. And Mr. Speaker, I believe that we can without hesitancy single out on this occasion another of our great British cultural inheritances, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Throughout her ongoing 69-year reign and in fact her 95-year life so far, we have as a Commonwealth been extraordinarily blessed to be in her orbit. It is staggering to consider her lived experience of the Depression and the Blitz, the gulags and the killing fields, the Iron Curtain, the fall of communism's evil empire, the horrors of 9/11, and now to add to this, the greatest pandemic since the Spanish flu, and eventually only narrowly missed 100 years ago, and the new dangers after the fall of a once-free Hong Kong. It is with a sense of awe that we sit here, on another small island, at the end of the world, with her Mother of Parliament's coat of arms above your chair, Mr. Speaker, and the immortal words, Deo est mon droit, God and my right. Since we last sat, we have mourned the death of His Royal Highness Prince Philip and their extraordinary partnership. Indeed, with the recent appointment of Her Excellency the Governor, it is a reminder of what a distinct honour it is to be commissioned to represent Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II in particular in our special corner and indeed anywhere in the world. And since this Parliament last met, we've also seen the retirement of her predecessor, another remarkable woman, former Governor, Professor Kate Warner AC. Over the next 4 years, never let us forget a simple truth reflected in our peculiar heritage. We are but a small island, but we sit here a free people in one of the oldest continuous democracies anywhere in the world at a moment when there are literally billions of people yearning to be free. We are but a small island, but we have something to give to the world. Mr. Speaker, we gather here on a day after the shortest day of the year and in a moment, we hope, where we are emerging from one of the darkest chapters in the history of the human race. It was on this day, actually, Mr. Speaker, 22nd June 1934, 87 years ago, that Albert Ogilvie, the man of bronze who stands in these very gardens, became Premier of Tasmania. He came to power in the darkest days of the Depression era, nearly 5 years after the Black Tuesday Wall Street crash. He oversaw the massive expansion of hydroelectric development, the opening of Tarraleah in 1938 and the start of the Lake St Clair scheme. He developed the road to the Mount Wellington pinnacle and was at the forefront of tourism development in our state. The major industrial developments credited to him of the decade was pulp and paper and the establishment of the Boyer Mill. He, like the best Tasmanian leaders, had an unshakable belief in the end of idle hands and the mutual obligation of work and opportunity. And he died in the way many men would wish, playing golf. It is with delight that my speech today will be followed by an address from his great niece and the newest member of the Parliamentary Liberal Party, the member for Clark, Madeline Ogilvie. We share a commitment to freedom of conscience and the desire for realisation of the aspirations of everyday Tasmanian families. To get a job in your own community, to own your own home, to raise your kids according to your values, and when it's all said and done, to have a dignified retirement after a lifetime of hard work. Maddie, you're welcome.
Thank you.
In that same year, Mr Speaker, 1934, another Tasmanian Premier and another who left the left had stepped onto the national stage at a time of unprecedented crisis. Premier Joe Lyons stated in his famous New Year's address, "For many I know only too well, 1934 has been a year of trial. To many it has brought suffering. To those, words can be of small comfort. But I cannot refrain from expressing my unbounded admiration for the manner in which thousands of people have borne their suffering with fortitude, have faced life and its problems so courageously. This spirit, Mr Speaker, lives on today. We are a small island, but we have faith in the promise of tomorrow. Mr Speaker, I'm very pleased to be back in this House following the historic May election, which saw a majority Liberal government return for a third consecutive term. There is no doubt that Tasmania has gone from strength to strength under a majority Liberal government. Employment in Tasmania grew by 1,800 people in May, bringing the total number of people employed in Tasmania to 259,600, which is higher than before the pandemic hit us in March last year. Mr Speaker, our unemployment rate also fell by 0.5% to 5.7%, and our participation rate grew as Tasmanians started to get out and fill the job opportunities that are available. The ABS data confirms, Mr Speaker, our plan to secure Tasmania's future is working, with businesses confident, investing, hiring, and our economy growing. Her Excellency, the Governor, in her address stated that Tasmanians have voted for certainty and stability, supporting our bold plan to create opportunities for all Tasmanians and to implement our plan to secure Tasmania's future. I do not take this task lightly, Mr Speaker, nor do I take it for granted, and together with my colleagues, I'll work hard every day for Tasmanians. Mr Speaker, our strong plan was backed by the people, and we are getting on with the job of securing Tasmania's future. We have a sharp focus on delivery, which is why we laid out a number of key actions to deliver across our first 30 days of taking office, and we have delivered on each and every one of them, Mr Speaker, just as we said we'd do. We heard loud and clear from Tasmanians that these are their priorities, and we have responded. This includes taking action on health to reduce pressure off our hospitals and provide the services where and when Tasmanians need them. We'll slash elective surgery waiting lists and deliver an additional 22,300 elective surgeries and endoscopies statewide by investing an additional $120 million for a total investment of $156.4 million to deliver a record program of elective surgery. This will employ up to an additional 280 full-time staff to support new and boosted services across Tasmania, including more than 160 nurses, 14 doctors, 30 allied health staff, as well as more than 70 hospital support staff. From my home region, the Northwest, this will provide 3,700 additional surgeries and endoscopies and an investment of $26.1 million over the next 4 years as part of the biggest ever investment into elective surgery. In the Northwest, we'll deliver a $60 million Stage 1 redevelopment of the Northwest Regional Hospital to meet future demand, the first significant upgrade in decades. And we will expand the Mersey Community Hospital redevelopment with a further investment of $20 million to provide a total upgrade of $55 million, the most significant redevelopment in the hospital's history. In addition, we're delivering a second linear accelerator in the Northwest Regional Hospital to meet the demand of cancer patients. We're establishing a new rural medical workforce centre at the Mersey to support the recruitment and retention of permanent doctors for the region. And we're strengthening palliative and community healthcare with an additional $52 million statewide for an in-home and local community delivered health service. Mr. Speaker, the Tasmanian Liberal majority government has delivered more funding, more staff and more health services than any government ever before. We are now spending $9.8 billion on health, $4 billion more than when the disastrous Labor Green government was running the show in 2013. That's a 70% increase.
Order.
In fact, 32% of total budget funding is now spent on health, up from 25% a decade ago. Mr. Speaker, Her Excellency the Governor stated in her address that this government has adopted a bold agenda and a clear plan to secure Tasmania's future, to secure more opportunities for Tasmanians and to build a more diverse and resilient economy. As part of our 30-day plan, we've already taken action to secure more jobs in Tasmania. This includes delivering a memorandum of understanding between the government, TT Line and the Tasmanian Maritime Network to deliver up to $100 million in local supply to Tasmanian businesses in delivering 2 new replacement spirits. The replacement of TT Line's passenger ferries represent a significant long-term investment in the future of our state. When COVID hit, we had the opportunity to do nothing or to take action and deliver better outcomes for our state. We chose action and it is delivered. The contract to deliver up to $100 million of local content allows Tasmanian businesses to have a much greater role in the supply of goods and services for these new and iconic vessels. This will help to sustain and grow jobs, as well as promote local innovation and capability. Mr. Speaker, innovation runs in Tasmania's DNA. It is key to harnessing our natural strengths and competitive advantages to realise our true potential. Her Excellency the Governor outlined in her address that this includes advanced manufacturing, agriculture, mineral resources, fisheries, forestry, tourism, the arts and iconic events which showcase our culture, our heritage and our ingenuity. Our industries are the backbone of our regional economies. They help to provide opportunities and jobs. They help to put our kids in school and food on our table. As a government, we must responsibly support our industries and ensure we have the infrastructure to attract and retain them. We promote a better way of doing things, and our industries help lead the way. More than 100 years ago, Tasmania took a bold leap and grasped the opportunities before it, delivering the hydroelectric power scheme. The construction work was difficult and required grit, resilience and innovation in some of the most difficult country anywhere in our state. It began with a big dream in the early 1900s to bring electricity to every Tasmanian farm, business and home. No other state or territory at the time had a public statewide energy generating enterprise. It was an Australian first. And now, Mr. Speaker, Tasmania is a clean energy leader. We were the first state in Australia to reach net zero emissions, and we've reached our 2050 target early for 5 years in a row. Here we stand with a next generation opportunity to harness our island's competitive advantages and once again lead Australia, this time to transition to a low emissions economy. Our bold plan to unlock Tasmania's world-class renewable energy resources, including hydro generation and storage, as well as wind and solar resources, will be a game changer, Mr. Speaker. Through our key projects, including Marinus Link, Battery of the Nation and our hydrogen strategy, we will not only create thousands of jobs, and deliver a bumper boost to our economy. But we will help transition Tasmania to a renewable energy powerhouse and meet our renewable energy target of 200% by 2040. Mr. Speaker, this government has a strong plan to secure Tasmania's future and to support job creation and economic growth in the state's forestry sector. We understand that forestry is a vital part of the economy, and that's why we'll invest $11.7 million into Tasmania's forest industries, helping to secure the jobs of the 5,700 people currently working in the sector and to create more than 300 new jobs. We will do this by helping the industry to grow its on-island processing and value adding, to attract new businesses to Tasmania and allow existing businesses to invest and expand, creating jobs, particularly in regional areas such as mine. In turn, this will support our building and construction boom in Tasmania by providing greater access to high-value, appearance-grade veneers and load-bearing timbers. We'll also be helping the industry to promote sustainable Tasmanian products to fuel demand and addressing current skills shortages and to train the forest industry leaders of the future. Mr. Speaker, Tasmania's mining and mineral processing is a vital part of the state's economy, contributing more than 50% of Tasmania's exports and employing 5,100 Tasmanians, mostly in regional communities. The mining sector contributes the lion's share, Mr. Speaker, of our state's goods exports, and it is a key job creator and a community building sector, and draws on Tasmania's rich, sustainable natural resources. Under a majority Liberal government, we've seen the restart of operations at Hellier, creating more than 60 jobs, the successful sale of the Henty gold mine, securing over 100 jobs, and the sale of the Beaconsfield gold mine and proposed restart, which would create 80 jobs. Not only to mention that, Mr. Speaker, but the venture mine at Riley Creek. It is why we will continue to help our mining sector to find new deposits, develop new mines, create new jobs and new value-adding opportunities. These initiatives are expected to create jobs by providing industry with the certainty that they need to continue investing in Tasmania and employing local Tasmanians.
They should start with a social licence.
Mr. Speaker, business confidence in Tasmania is strong, and that's a sign of government policies that enable businesses to invest, to grow, to diversify and employ Tasmanians. With my first child born on the campaign trail, my focus is clear. I want him to grow up in a state where there are opportunities, not limitations. That's why a majority Liberal government takes its economic management seriously and knows that investing in infrastructure builds better, more connected communities and helps to attract investment to our state. Her Excellency, the Governor, outlined our strong focus on ensuring we have the intergenerational infrastructure our growing state needs. We're building better roads, schools, hospitals, bridges, dams and irrigation networks right across the state, which is supporting thousands of jobs in our regions and helping our businesses and our industries. That's why we're supporting and accelerating our agriculture sector with further investment in key areas such as irrigation to propel the sector towards our bold target of an annual farm gate value of $10 billion by 2050, supporting rural and regional communities and creating even more jobs. And it is why we aim to fast-track investment for the largest port developments program in Tasmania's history, which will be a game changer for the northwest economy, Mr. Speaker. It includes redeveloping the Port of Devonport to significantly increase capacity for both freight and for vehicles, and transforming Burnie Port into a dedicated bulk export terminal, increasing capacity for larger vessels to berth at the port and ensure the terminal infrastructure is fit for purpose. It is estimated that these transformational projects will create up to 2,700 jobs during construction and inject over $236 million into our local economy through increased trade, mining royalties and tourism. Mr. Speaker, strong communities are connected communities, and that includes all our islands in Tasmania. It's why the government has wasted no time, and in our first 30 days we have entered into an agreement to extend direct flights between Hobart and King and Flinders Island to March 22, better connecting families on the islands, improving services and allowing more Tasmanians the opportunity to visit and experience these islands and what makes our state truly unique and special. Mr. Speaker, strong communities are also safe communities, and Her Excellency the Governor said in her address, this government is focused on initiatives that keep Tasmania safe. We're boosting Tasmania Police to the highest number of officers in the state's history, investing in CCTV in our rural and regional areas, and providing more funds to Crime Stoppers and support for specialist recruitment in areas such as cybercrime. We are keeping communities safe from the threat of bushfire, with more fuel reduction burns, more volunteers such as yourself, Mr. Speaker, and new generation technologies. And we are keeping our communities safe by taking action against the scourge of family violence, investing in crisis accommodation through affordable housing action plan, and extending the capacity of women's shelters and the important work that they do across the state, including Jura House, Salvation Army and Magnolia House. Mr. Speaker, we know that there's more work to do, and that is why we've committed to a third family and sexual violence action plan with fully funded, evidence-based initiatives in consultation with family and sexual violence consultative group and people with lived experience. The safety and well-being of our most vulnerable children, young people and their families is also critical. That's why we're developing Tasmania's very first child and youth wellbeing strategy, and we're providing funds to support new, stable, permanent family placements where children and young people can belong and thrive. We will also extend support for informal kinship carers who play a crucial role in the lives of many Tasmanian children who are unable, sadly, to live with their parents. Mr. Speaker, the Tasmanian people have again recognised that this is no time for trivial leadership, but of strength of character, of a no-nonsense approach, of a Premier willing to make the tough and fair and responsible decisions that need to be made in the interests of our state. This is a government that wants to govern for people of all walks of life, the shopkeepers, the skilled artisans, professional men and women, farmers, and so on. They are the backbone of our nation, as Menzies reminds us. This is a government for all Tasmanians, no matter who you are, where you live, your circumstance or your background. Joe Lyons concluded in that 1934 address, "But I believe that the Australian people, by their determination to face facts, by their refusal to take the easy road, by their sacrifices, have won to a position which is the envy of the world. To them, to you who are listening tonight, we owe you our thanks. The road to economic recovery is painful, but I have no doubt that the road the Australian people have taken is the correct one, and that its goal will be worth the effort in attaining it." True then of Australia, Mr. Speaker. True now of Tasmania. Mr. Speaker, we are but a small island, but there is no place in the world that it is better to be. And I look forward to working with my team as part of this government to secure Tasmania's future.
Before I give